Why am I smiling? Because I'm about to make a wonderful dish with lobster. And you're lucky. I'm going to show you to make lobster stock, and I'm going to show you to make this wonderful lobster sauce for pasta. Are you ready? Let me show you to make it. It's very easy these days to make your own lobster stock. All you need to do is find a store that will sell you a lobster. They will cook it for you as well. They'll crack it open, so by the time you bring it home, all that you need to worry about is to clean the inside of the lobster, the head part of it, which I showed you how to do. Now, there's still a couple of things that we need to do because we want to use these shells to make the stock, and I want to show you exactly how. So in here we have the whole lobster that has been cracked in half already, and I want you to see it on the other side because this is the most important part. So at this point what I want to do is to crack the shell for good, and one lobster goes this way, the other piece goes the other way. And then very attentively, what I want to do is to actually take out the lobster tail. Now, this is very important. This lobster is about 1.5 pounds, and as you can see, there is very little amount of meat that's left over in the tail after we're done with this process. It's just the way in which it is. So here we go with this part. Now, here we are with the rest of the body. What I like to do is to cut the shell in smaller pieces. So here we go, one piece like this. Here we go one other piece like this. Make sure you use a nice knife and you guide it all the way through. So at this point, what I like to do is to place them into a bowl, and we'll continue with the other half of the lobster. Now, you notice that first I bring down the hand. Once I have the blade, then I push down. Do not do this unless you know where the tip of the knife is at. This is extremely important. A lot of people put themselves with the hand ahead of the knife, and they think they're gonna go and chop the lobster. This motion, very dangerous. Avoid it if you can. And here we go with the knuckle, and this part of it is gone. So this also, I will add to the bowl right in here. Now, what we have left is the knuckle meat. This requires some violence. Do not do it with a blade. Do it with the back of the knife. So the first thing that you do, you hit it right here. Once it's done, this piece right here is what comes out. And using a towel, because this will rip you apart, you want to snap it off and make sure that you take out this piece. Why the usage of the towel? I want you to see that the lobster has the spine built into it. If you go and grab it like this, it will cut you right into the skin. These are the things that you definitely want to avoid. So we have a piece of meat here on the inside, over here. Another piece over here, I'll put with the other meat. And we have other pieces of shell that we'll put back in the shell. We have one more. We have broken down the shell of the lobster, and now we're ready to make the stock. Let me show you how. One of the things that people are always afraid when it does come to making a lobster stock is that it's a very difficult recipe to make. Not at all. And I'll show you exactly how. The most important ingredients are the shells. Yes, the shells are full of life. They have the essence of the lobster. But we need to be able to bring this essence out and to create the stock, because the stock is the most important part of making the sauce. So let me show you how. We have the olive oil in there. To the olive oil, we're going to add first a little bit of garlic. I cut it thick, and then we're going to start what's known as the sofrito. The sofrito is made of carrots, finely chopped, of course, onions, celery, some sprigs of thyme, which is fantastic for the sauce. Thyme is my favorite spice, and a little bit of chopped bacon. Why? You're right. Why am I putting bacon inside a stock made for fish, crustaceans that is? I have found that there's something magical about chopped bacon, and I pretty much ended up using it in most of my sauces. What it does for me, it opens up a flavor that is completely unusual. And it marries well with everything, and it gives a base that's big and strong. And even though this is about lobster, this bacon will actually marry with the lobster flavor and expand it onto the other side. For those of you that don't like bacon, do not like using bacon with fish, this is not necessary. But to me, this is one step that really takes you to the other side. At this point, we add a little bit of my magic. This is a rub that I usually put over my meats, but it works fantastic. It's a mix of salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, and brown sugar, all in the same amount. The more we build the flavors at this point, the more it will take us closer to where we want to go. Oh, hey, look how beautiful it is. It's at this point that we add the shells into the pan. So for a few moments, what I want to do is to cook them into the base so that they pick up the flavor that has been developed by the base. Here now is a wonderful addition, brandy. Why brandy instead of wine? I find that brandy brings out an elegant flavor even more than wine does. But if you were to use wine, there would not be a problem. You notice that I am moving the shells around, and at the same time I'm pushing down. Why am I pushing down? I'm encouraging this squeezing of the remnant juices that are still inside of them. And trust me, there's an enormous amount of juice. This stock is going to be fantastic. At this point, most of the brandy has evaporated, and that's when we add the other ingredients. First, we go with some stock. Let's talk about the stock. Chicken stock marries wonderfully with this. Chicken stock is fairly weak in terms of personality. It means that it changes with the other ingredients that you put it into. As a matter of fact, I use it also to make a wonderful dish together with clams. If you have fish stock, Andy, even better. But here we go. Together with the chicken stock, we add tomato sauce. Store-bought is fine, or you can use my recipe. It's at this point that we continue mixing all these ingredients together. Now, we're going to bring this to a boil. So once it does reach a boil, the next thing that you want to do is reduce it down to a simmer, put it on the back of the stove, and let it go for 30 minutes or so. Now, let's continue, and let me show you how to make the sauce. We got the pasta in the water. All we have to do is the sauce. It's gonna be fun. I cannot wait to show you this. This is one of my favorite dishes. Plus, it reminds me of my dad. First thing we do, we add the garlic to the olive oil. And I like to add it early in the process because before I add the other ingredients, I want to get the olive oil nice and hot. And one way for us to notice this is through the garlic. As the garlic is waiting for the heat to arrive to the pan, a little bit of red pepper flakes. Why? My father used to do it. I love doing it. It's one of those things that I do all the time. For those of you that don't know it, I actually have a little piece of my dad with me today, right here as I'm showing you this recipe. This watch right here belonged to my dad. My whole life he was wearing it, and when he passed away, I took it with me. Actually, he gave it to me long before he passed away. He was totally surprised that I had the watch redone. Why is this watch so important? The watch works. It tells the time perfectly. But every time I wear it, I feel as if his spirit is with me. So hopefully, I will do a real honor to him by showcasing one of the best dishes he taught me. The garlic is now starting to jump exactly the way we want to. At this point, we add the onions. If they're white, if they're red, doesn't make much of a difference. They're just wonderful. At this point, our flow is to basically lower the heat a little bit and get the onion to cook on medium-low heat until they soften up wonderfully. And this is basil, fresh basil. Why am I adding it now? A lot of people have this issue, say, why, if you add the fresh basil now, it will burn, it will turn dark. But there's another thing that the basil does at this point. The basil is kind of sacrificing itself and giving itself to the sauce. We gotten what we want in here, and it's at this point that I like to add the chopped tomatoes. These are Italian peeled tomatoes. As this is cooking, I want to add one more flavor base to this to recall the flavor that we have into the lobster stocks. And that is a little bit of brandy. I'm gonna cook this until most of the brandy has evaporated. Now at this point, you can just add salt and pepper. That would taste fantastic. But I add a little bit of my Nixtalino special rub because I want a little bit of the onion powder, garlic powder to penetrate the paprika. This is the most important part. Now, I'm going to pay attention to this. I have the stock that has basically cooked to its perfection right next to the pan. So I'm going to be using this ladle to fill up the stock and add it. Look how beautiful it is. Look at the color that's picked up already. This is the flavor of our sauce. This is the most important thing that you could possibly do. And it is at this point that I like to add it exactly like this. Look how gorgeous it is. Mamma mia, che bellezza. Now, two schools of thoughts on. We can wait for the sauce to reduce the sauce consistency, then top it over the pasta. That's one way to go. I don't subscribe to that. Why? You have a sauce that's just beautiful. You want for the pasta to cook the last few minutes into the sauce. Now, you will notice that the pasta is slightly undercooked. You can see it by the stiffness of the pasta. This is exactly where we want to have it. I have undercooked the pasta by a full 2.5, 3 minutes because I want the last few minutes to take place here into the sauce. And to ensure the flavor even more, a little bit more stock. Most of the sauce has been absorbed, and now we want to add the lobster pieces to it. And this is a last final touch. The pasta is basically done. I'm gonna turn it off because I don't want to cook the lobster meat until it becomes tough. And it's at this point that I like to add fresh basil with a chiffonade. And at this point, I want to mix the sauce and the pasta one more time. The pasta is ready. The sauce is perfect. All we have to do is plate it. There's several ways in which you can look at this pasta. One of it is pasta with a very luxurious ingredient, lobster. But to me, it's magic, period. This pasta has the soul of my father in it, and it's a pasta that taught me how to dream. I hope that you will make it for your family, and you will find the same joy that I found when my father made it for me. And this is how you make pasta with lobster sauce.